Hi friends, it's Jen with ChappyPlans. Welcome to stories 28 and 29 for my December daily. Hi everyone, it's Jen with ChappyPlans. Thanks for joining me for this December daily video. I am going to be working in my second volume of December Daily 2024. Stories 28 and 29. Story 28 is the one that's going to be done first, which is, as you can hopefully see, a story about books I've read this year. I ended up changing up my story ideas because this was the year that I returned to reading, and so I wanted to document it in my December daily album, and I had a really good idea to do that. So I'm showing you a lot of the items I'm using, and they are mostly from, actually, they're kind of from all over, but the papers are from Paper Person Shop. So ironically, I was working on this the first portion of this I worked on, while I was listening to an audiobook. And then the second portion of the story I was finishing up while I was doing my video, FaceTime chat, Zoom, whatever you want to call it, with my scrappy friends. And so hi to my scrappy friends that joined this during the making of this story, which was hilarious, but not so hilarious because I realized I dropped several of the little miniature books that I had printed out on the floor. So I had to go back and add them in where I could. So the photos and the finished product look different in person because I found like 3 more books on the floor that I forgot to add while I was making this. Anyways, these, like I said, these papers are from Paper Person Shop. They're not quite long enough to be outside the page protector, so I'm just remedying that by adding a couple of strips of paper on the sides. And I thought this black asterisk paper was good, and I think it works pretty well. It doesn't look too distracting. And then I wanted to create a flip up. So, and I thought, like, I know it's a crossword puzzle. It's not really like reading, but when else are you going to use like a crossword puzzle type pattern paper? I don't know. So I felt like it was a good use of the paper. And then I really wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do. So this was one where, like, I mean, as far as the title goes, the books, I knew I wanted to create a tree out of all the books I read in 2024 and try to put them in rainbow order. I thought about putting them in the order I read, but I realized it looked very, I don't know, it just looked cluttered and kind of messy. And so when it's in rainbow order, it makes more sense. And so that's why I decided to pick the embellishments that I went with on the title. So this title page flip up, I trimmed down the 2024 from a 4x6 vellum card that came in this year's, I think it was in this year's main kit, but it could have been an add-on, I'm not sure. So I'm just going to adhere that down with my glue pen. And then I knew I wanted to write or spell out the title with these alpha stickers because they are rainbow colored. And so I spelled out reading recap with those. And then I was looking through my stash of embellishments for some things that had books, and I found this little cardstock die cut book from Allie Edwards. I think it's from like a former Week in the Life or Day in the Life collection, and the chipboard books, which came off of a Studio Calico add-on. And then those bursts are also from that same kit. I just, like those Starburst die cuts, I just thought those were fun. So I put one over the 0 in 2024, and I put one at the bottom right corner that was going to act as sort of like a layer for the chipboard books. And then the black 2 and the 8 are from one of the Advent sticker kit days. And then I added the rainbow chipboard dots on the top just for some fun. And while I did use regular Scotch tape to create the flaps or the flip ups, I thought it would be fun to cover that with rainbow washi. So I will end up switching that out later on in this story. Because this video is a little bit longer than some of the other ones, I might switch to music for some of the parts of the process. So here's some music. All right, so we're at the point in the process where I feel like I need to explain a little bit more of what's happening, and then I'll get back to some music. So this is where I added, let's see, I read 51 books in 2024, and there were 3 that I had missed that fell on the floor. So, do the math. 48 books are being put down, which totally screws up how cute it looks in the end because I had to add some more. But it's fine. My OCD doesn't mind it at all. It totally minds it. And I also added a little chipboard gold star to the top of the quote unquote book tree that I don't think that got in the video either. I don't even know if it got photographed, to be honest. It might have been an afterthought. But whenever I do my finished flip through of this volume of 2024's December Daily, you will see any updates I've made. So I'm going to get all of those books down and in sort of a Roy G. Biv order. I mean, it was kind of hard, obviously, because they're book covers. So whatever art is on there is on there. So I kind of went with whatever made sense to my eyes. It may not be what you would have done or chosen, but it made sense for me. There were a lot of blues and a lot of greens, and a lot of ones that looked very similar. So I don't know how publishers make these decisions. It must be pretty tough. So anyways, on the rainbow patterned paper, once I get my tree all laid out, which again, it's just on white paper, like, what's it called? Like photo printer paper, but it's on like the matte kind of photo printer paper. But on the rainbow pattern paper underneath, which was on the flip side of the crossword, the title I'm going to put with some black puffy alphas that spell out top 10 because I decided to put my top 10 favorite books out of all the books I read this year. I was going to just do 5, but I couldn't only pick 5. I had to go with 10. So, and originally I was going to use the numbers that coordinated with those alphas and that I used on the front to put the story number, but in the end they were too big, so I just decided to stamp it out. So I'm just using some black ink. It's by Suki Nico. It's just Memento Tuxedo Black. And the stamp set that I use the most this whole season, which is the alphas and the numbers that are kind of wonky shaped. And I stamped those out, and then I took my white paint pen, which is from Grabby, and I love how thin it is and how thick, like, the point of the pen is. It's a very thin point, but the paint comes out nice and thick and opaque. So it's very easy to use. And so I just lettered all of the titles. So number 1, my number 1 book, and in retrospect, I should have gone from 10 to 1, but that's okay. Number 1 is The Women. That was my favorite book of 2024. Number 2 was Lady Tan's Circle of Women. Number 3 was Educated. Number 4 was All the Light We Cannot See. Number 5 was Frozen River. Number 6, Lessons in Chemistry. Number 7, Demon Copperhead. Number 8, Did You Hear About Kitty Carr? Number 9, Margot's Got Money Troubles. Number 10, A Court of Thorns and Roses, which ironically is one of the books that did not get taped down that was underneath my desk. So I'm glad I found it, and I, ended up putting it back in the end. But I think it turned out super cute. I don't know if I've seen anybody create a rainbow tree out of books. I've seen people do lots of things like documenting their books, but I just thought this was such a good idea, especially because there were so many. And I did size them in my print to size app, which took quite a while, I'm not gonna lie, to add. First of all, I didn't have all of these photos on my phone, so I had to go and find an image for each of these books. And then I had to, save them to my phone, go into the print to size app, size them down, which don't ask me what the sizes are because I have no idea at this point anymore. And then add them all to make sure they were all lined up and then print them out on, my printer paper at home. So it was a process, but I think it was well worth it because I am in love with the way this turned out. And I thought about adding like the numbers to the top 10. And if I did, I would have realized I was missing 3, but I didn't want to take away from the tree. So I just left it as is. The only thing, like I said, I added was the gold chipboard star at the top, which I think was from last year's December Daily kit. So now that I have the flip up, I'm like, oh, I also need to add my journaling, which I had gone ahead and typed out already. So I'll read that to you while you guys watch me add the finishing touches to the title and do the stamping and lettering on the rainbow portion of this flip up. All right, I'm going to read you the journaling, but while I do that, I just want to preface this by saying Nora has a friend over for a sleepover, so if you hear background noise, I apologize. Okay, so I titled it In My Reading Era. 2024 was my reading era. I was finally making the time to consume media other than reality television, the occasional movie, or SNL YouTube shorts. I began listening to audiobooks, and that changed everything. Instead of watching YouTube videos, I started listening to books via the Libby app. Thank you, public libraries. Or reading an actual physical book. I had no goal in mind, no special reading challenges, and no idea what I was even into at this stage in my life. It had been so long since I decided to read for pleasure, which is astounding since my punishment when I was little was to take my books away. I remember books being my escape, my safe space, my outlet, and I felt that way long after I left home and went to college. College, however, brought the very verbose, intense texts and mandatory reading that consumed my time, not to mention my attention. Suffice it to say, reading for leisure just wasn't a thing. I lived my 20s like an unhinged, wild teenager and lived life to the fullest, literally a YOLO lifestyle. So reading, yeah, right. Fast forward to my 40s, where I'd prefer to be in my craft room playing with stationery or documenting memories, and this is where my love for reading was completely rekindled. So here we are at the end of 2024, my return to reading, and I cannot believe I read 51 books this year. While I'm not going to pick a favorite, I will say I highly favor historical fiction, a really well-written, non-cheesy romance novel, and an unpredictable thriller or mystery book. I ended the year on a high note, having read one that I would consider a favorite, All the Light We Cannot See, and I am so excited to see where my love of reading takes me in 2025. So that was my journaling. It was very wordy, but I think it was necessary to sort of sum up all of the meaning behind my return to reading and recap everything that I did read this past year. So now I'm just going to finish lettering in my favorite titles. Let me know if you've read any of these, if you have any great historical fiction book recommendations. That tends to be, if you look at my top 10, it tends to be my favorite genre. Also, like I said, a non-cheesy murder mystery. And yeah, I would love to know what you guys are into and take your recommendations, of course. Hi again, interrupting the music. So I decided I needed to create a flip out for the journaling. Obviously, it's a lot. So I put it, as you can see, on the second piece of crossword puzzle paper to tie it into the theme. And then I just created a flip out. So, the title page flips up and then the journaling flips out to reveal the top 10 list. And I didn't add anything to the back of this pattern paper because it has a lot of fun prints on it anyways, just keeps repeating itself. It says jingle all the way, dashing through the snow, oh what fun, making spirits bright. It's just a whole bunch of holiday what is the word? My brain is just not working today. Lyrics. And then in like fun prints, you can see it there, that blue paper. And then I didn't want to abandon this super cute die cut that looks like a bunch of books, so I just taped it to the middle of the page and left it as is. Now the flip out is just using sticker paper. I just used the bottom of the paper that was left over from the journaling, and it's not cute because it's white and it definitely looks pretty stark and abrupt against the blue pattern paper, but I didn't care. I was content to leave it as is, didn't feel like covering it up. I think, you know, the attention is really supposed to be on the rainbow tree, so I didn't mind. And you can see I'm switching out the washi tape at the top because the one I originally selected was just too thin and it kept peeling up and it wasn't staying in its place, and I felt like that was because it was too thin. So I grabbed a thicker rainbow washi because if you know me, you know I have way too many different types of washi. So that actually is going to wrap up this story. You can see, I'll show you a close-up in real time. Oh, I lied. The last thing I add is the tab that just says story, which is from a former Ali Edwards collection. So now you can see the close-ups in real time, and then I'm going to move on to story 29. Ta-da! I love this. I'm obsessed with this story. I think it turned out super cute, and I'm very happy with it. I did round the edges of the flip out just to show that there was something else to open and see, in case you missed that part. All right, so story 29 is, I'm using the back side of 28, obviously, and I'm just covering it with vellum. I didn't have to cover it with anything, but I used vellum on the right side of the spread as well, and I'm going to use page protectors for the rest of it. So just for consistency, I decided to cover the back of the paper with this snowflake vellum patterned paper that I have in my stash, and I apologize, it's super zoomed in, but don't worry, very shortly it will be zoomed out. It's not even exciting anyway. All I'm doing is adding my double-sided tape to the back of story 28 and then adhering the vellum down to act as a base for the photo that I printed out. That's a 4x6 picture of Niagara Falls, which is what this story is about. So that's the title, and I'm going to write that in with paint pen. Same paint pen I used on story 28, and it works perfectly because it's a nice black sky and the white sticks out very, very nicely. The bottom card is just a pocket card from, I think it's from the main kit. It says 1, 2, 3. And it was my inspiration for all the embellishments that I will be using when I get to the pockets on the right. So that is where I'm going to add my journaling once I adhere that down. And I do the journaling off camera later on, but I can just sort of read it to you. So one talks about how on Sunday we left Michigan and started to make our way to Niagara Falls. We stopped in Buffalo so that I could go to a stationery store, and I got a new fountain pen and some inks, which I did share in a Flip Through Friday haul. So if you're curious, you can go back and try to find that on my playlist. And then number 2 talks about how my mother-in-law's mom, Carolyn, so I wrote Grandma Carolyn, is in hospice. We wanted to stop and say our goodbyes. It was good to see her and also be able to support Lori, who is my mother-in-law. The rest of our trip went well. Number 3 just talks about how we ate dinner at the Rainforest Cafe. We do that every year, but we decided that it might be our last year with this tradition, and we walked a little bit downtown because it is such a beautiful city, and then checked into our hotel and went right to bed. And so I just included 4 more 3x4 photos. There are 2 on the front side of this page protector, and then there are 2 on the back. And for the 2 columns on the right, or the 2 spots where there should be or could be photos or pocket cards, I just decided to put a huge cluster of various embellishments that were in the colorway that matched and coordinated with the pocket or the journaling card on the left, which is the 1, 2, 3 card. And this idea is scrap lifted from Rachel by Rachel Hart. So I added a couple of ornaments. I added some circles, some stars, just a lot of fun little things that I had in my stash, either from the kit or even from other stores or from my Ali Edwards stash. So some of those like circular plastic pieces, those were, I punched them out using a 1.5-inch hole punch from those scalloped plastic cards. And then those vellum stars are from a different Ali Edwards story kit. The Still Merry and Bright sticker is from last year or the year before's December daily kit. The wood veneer stars are from this year and last year. The puffy hearts are from this year's Advent sticker kit. Those white bursts, those chipboard bursts that are glittery, I think they are from last year or the year before, but they're definitely from a December daily kit. What else? Oh, the only thing that's not Ellie Edwards, I think, on the front of this is the circular chipboard gingham with the green, like the greenery on it. And that's from Studio Calico. But I thought I would put the number on the blue heart because it was, it was a bunch of negative space. And so I thought it made sense to add 29 there. And then didn't do anything at all to the photos. I don't think I need to. There's plenty of stuff for your eyes to look at on the right. So I think it makes sense to kind of leave it as is. And I was tasked with finding a way to tell these stories where it wasn't just looking so dark, because all these pictures are dark, right? There's taken at night, the streets with the lights lit up and the tree at the end. I don't think you can really see it in that tiny photo, but in person, that there's a Christmas tree at the end of that street. And then, inside the restaurant was dark. And then on the back side, the photos aren't as dark, but they're not like bright. So I felt like I needed to use embellishments that, I don't know, were kind of loud and in your face and created some interest. And so I think that I achieved that with all of these different pieces. And it felt really good to be able to use a lot of my stash. So that's always fun. And you can see that I'm using either my Zig glue pen to adhere the pieces down, or I'm using my very thin, I think it's like an 1/8 inch double-sided tape. So when I move to the back of the story, the pictures are more warm. The colors have more warm colors in them. So there's Nora standing in front of this like giant inflatable soft polar bear with like a hat on. And that one, it's not the greatest picture, but I wanted to include it because I have a picture of her with that polar bear like every year since she's been little and since we've been going. So I wanted to include that. And she's got, her like bright pink jacket and her red leggings, and the bear has the red hat. And then the photo underneath is of those really pretty big ornaments hanging from the ceiling in the hotel. And so I wanted to kind of play off of that, and have some more reds and golds. So the front has the cool colors, right? Like cool color palette. And then the back has warm, and it's all like red and golds and a little bit of white mixed in there. So I had a lot of fun decorating this. Like I said, I was in my Zoom with my scrappy friends while I was putting this together. So I was able to chat with them and kind of just play around with the placement of different embellishments. And to me, that's like some of the most fun that I have when I'm creating these pages. So I'm going to switch over to music, and then you guys can watch me finish putting this together, and then you can see the close-ups when I am finished. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching me put these pages together. Stories 28 and 29 are finished. I only have 30 and 31 left to go. So that video will be coming very soon, followed by a flip through of my completed second volume of December Daily 2024. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, please let me know if you have any questions or comments in the comment section below. Here's a look at everything all together. Again, really appreciate you guys being here for this. Subscribe if you're not, like the video, all those good things, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, friends. Remember that you are enough. Bye.